All right, let's go ahead and begin. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Lauren Abekwe, and I'm a coalition coordinator for Fort Bend Community Prevention Coalition, which is a program of Fort Bend Regional Council. I am also the project advisor for Pragathi's Gold Award Girl Scouts Project and a co-host for tonight. Pragathi has organized this event to educate young people about the risks associated with vaping. She's created a short introduction for us, and so we'll go ahead and play that now.
Hello, my name is Pragathi Thiagarajan. I am a 2021 Elkins High School graduate and a part of Girl Scout Troop 28173. This is my Gold Award project in partnership with Fort Bend Regional Council on Substance Abuse and Fort Bend Community Prevention Coalition. This event is conducted to bring an awareness among youth community about the risks and dangers of vaping, as most teens are unaware that nicotine is highly addictive and toxic to their developing brains. Stay tuned to learn more. I hope it will be educational as well as entertaining. Thank you.
All right. So the first item we have on our agenda today is a presentation from Pranav. Pranav is not only Pragathi's brother, but also a public health student at the University of Texas at Austin. And he has created a presentation so we can not only understand what vaping is, but its risk and its consequences. Pranav and I will be answering questions after this presentation. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box or the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end. Pranav, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Pranav Thiagarajan, and I am a public health student from the University of Texas at Austin. First off, how many of you guys in the audience have seen someone hitting a vape? Feel free to type in the chat. Are there any responses in the chat yet? I don't see any yet. You have? Okay, so one person has. It's good to hear. Or no, it's not good to hear, actually, very bad to hear. Okay, so two people. Okay, so it looks like a good amount of you guys know what vaping is. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'd like to cover the anatomy of an e-cigarette. For those of you who have not seen a vape, here's the anatomy of the e-cigarette. So as you can see, there's going to be the cartridge, which holds the e-liquid, the atomizer, which is the coil that is heated when you're using the sensors, and like that will basically heat up the liquid so it can be inhaled. There's also the battery, which is the part that you can recharge, and you can set the levels of intensity that you want to hit the vape at. Okay, now moving on. To the next slide. Okay, so now we're just going to go over what is inside of vaping juice. So although vaping is often seen as a safer and healthy alternative to other forms of nicotine, the truth is far from it, as there's a lack of standard in the industry, and vapes contain volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, flavoring chemicals, and ultra-fine particles in addition to just nicotine. These additional harmful substances that are inhaled are cancer-causing and can be detrimental to the body. It is important to understand what is inside of the vaping juice in order to be educated about the risks. Now moving on to the next slide. So now I'm going to go over how nicotine works in the body. Nicotine works by first being absorbed through the mucosal linings and then goes into the bloodstream when inhaled. Then it reaches the heart and moves into the arteries and then the brain. Nicotine will then reach the brain within 10 to 20 seconds and releases adrenaline and dopamine. Nicotine is then metabolized by metabolites in the liver and then filtered by kidneys and excreted in the urine with variable reabsorption based on pH. So as you can see, nicotine doesn't just affect the lungs, but it actually affects all parts of the body as it is absorbed through various parts of the body. Now moving on to the next slide. So now I'm basically going to go over how the nicotine addiction cycle works. Nicotine addiction works by first spreading through the body, then entering the outer capillaries and crossing the blood-brain barrier, and finally binding to the receptors on the brain cells. And it induces the release of neurotransmitters that lead to addiction. Furthermore, when nicotine is inhaled, almost every cell in the body is stimulated, which makes it as addictive as hard drugs such as cocaine and heroin. So, in a nutshell, nicotine actually rewires the way your brain functions, hence forming an addiction. Now moving on to the next slide. So now I'm going to go over the health effects and symptoms of nicotine. Nicotine has many known health effects, such as being highly addictive, toxic to fetus development, harmful to the brain development, and a health danger to pregnant women and their fetuses. Nicotine also can cause fertility problems in both men and women. Furthermore, as you can see, there are multiple symptoms of nicotine poisoning, such as irritation in the eye, agitation, high blood pressure, and lack of coordination. Furthermore, you can end up getting nicotine sick and have nicotine poisoning, which causes nausea and vomiting. So at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide if you want to stay sick and keep hitting Nick. Now moving on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to cover the reasons for why teens vape. And I'm just going to go over the list from the most of the reasons why they do it to the least the reasons why they do it. And so starting off, some of them do it to experiment or to see what it's like. Some do it because it tastes good. Others to have a good time with my friends. Some just to relax or relieve tension. Some people do it just to feel good or get high. Some do it because of boredom or they just have nothing else to do. Others because it looks cool. Now, these last three reasons are more reasons for people who are actually very addicted on it, because it's like the first reason is because I'm hooked. I have to have it. The second reason is to help me quit regular cigarettes. And the third reason is because regular cigarette use is not permitted. So as you can see, those last three reasons were something that's for people who who are already extremely addicted. So no matter what the reason is, there never is a good reason to vape. Now moving on to the next slide. Now I'm going to be covering how the media and market have decided to target teens for e-cigs. Vaping ads are very influential as they reach 4 in 5 middle and high school students. To make matters worse, the numbers are only increasing in terms of the percent of students exposed to e-cigarette ads. This is seen as from 2014 to 2016, the percent of teens exposed to e-cigarette ads has increased from 68.9% to 78.2%. In order to solve the vaping epidemic, it is up to you guys not to be influenced by ads and stay tough. This is because it is inevitable to stop these ads from reaching the students, but the students can decide to ignore the ads and lead a healthy lifestyle. Now moving on to the next slide. So now I'm just going to talk about the global e-cigarette market. E-cigarettes are having booming growth in the US as the United States spends $2 billion on e-cigs a year. E-cigs are going to reach 4% market value share by 2050, while only starting out with 0.1% of the total nicotine market in 2011. This comes to show that a 40 times growth will occur for the e-cigs market. With most e-cig users being students, this means that mostly teens will be responsible for the rise in the market. Think about it. Do you want to be one of those teens? Now moving on to the next slide. So now I'm just going to cover Juul's playbook, and Juul's basically one of the main company that actually created the e-cigarette epidemic. Personally speaking, the most notorious e-cig company that has caused the vaping epidemic is the Juul. This is because of the Juul's extremely cunning market strategy of adding sweet flavors to lure kids, adding high concentration of nicotine to make devices more addictive, and making it look popular and cool on social media. These are all ways that Juulism e-cigs seem popular and fun to teens. Furthermore, the company received investments from the makers of Marlboro and now has lobbyists fighting to get the banned sweet flavors back. So now I'm just going to go through the 5 steps that Juul actually used to lure these teens and kids into vaping. So first, they just lured the kids in with sweet flavors. Then they hooked kids with massive doses of nicotine to ensure they would get addicted. Then they made it cool on social media. Then they teamed up with Big Tobacco and had like Marlboro invest in them. And then the 5th and final step was they decided to have lobbyists fight bans on the flavored products so that they could continue hooking the kids on the Juul. So basically, they had the strategy that if they can get you addicted at a young age, then they have a customer for life. So you have to decide, do you want to chase your dreams or nicotine? Next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to go bust 5 vaping myths. So the first myth is nicotine is just like caffeine. Here's the fact. Nicotine is highly addictive. It can harm the parts of the brain that control mood and learning. The second myth, vaping is healthier than smoking cigarettes. Here's the fact. The chemicals in vape juice are linked to cancer, asthma, wheezing, and shortness of breath. Here's the third myth. If I vape, I won't smoke cigarettes. Here's the fact. 8th graders who vape are 10 times more likely to eventually smoke cigarettes. Here's the 4th myth. Vaping doesn't hurt the people around me. Here's the fact. When you vape, you inhale aerosol into your lungs. Bystanders breathe this in when you exhale into the air. Here's the 5th myth. E-cigarettes just produce a harmless water vapor. Here's the fact. Vaping exposes you to diacetyl, a chemical linked to a serious lung disease. Now moving on to the next slide. So now I just want to go over how much nicotine there are in e-cigarettes. So if you look, a pack of cigarettes contains 20 cigarettes. A Juul pod and a puff bar also each contain 20 cigarettes in terms of the concentration of nicotine that's inside of those pods. This is very detrimental, especially considering that when you consider people who start off with cigarettes, they actually have to build their tolerance up in order to get to a pack a day. But with these vapes that are luring in teenagers specifically, teenagers can finish these bars within 2 to 3 days and easily finish them within 1 day, 2 at times. And at that point, they're being a pack a day smokers, which is extremely detrimental for your health, as majority of the pack a day smokers actually develop cancer in the future. Now moving on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to cover basically what you're inhaling and exhaling specifically when you're hitting a vape. So there's the nicotine component, which is obviously in there, but there's also volatile organic compounds and ultrafine particles, which get stuck in there sometimes and they just won't come out. Cancer-causing chemicals, heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead, and flavorings such as diacetyl, a chemical linked to a serious lung disease. And yes, the lung disease will be popcorn lung, which we'll be discussing further on. Okay, next slide. Okay, so teens exposed to just 1 hour of secondhand tobacco smoke per week are 1.5 times more likely to find it harder to exercise, 2 times more likely to experience wheezing during or after exercise, 2 times more likely to have a dry cough at night, and 1.5 times more likely to miss school due to an illness. And these horrible effects are just for people who are just inhaling secondhand smoke from someone else's vape, just hanging around people who are doing it without even yourself participating in the activity. You are harming your body hanging around these people. The next slide. So some of y'all might, many of y'all know what third-hand smoke is, but I'm not kidding. There's something actually called third-hand smoke. Third-hand smoke is not commonly heard of, but it is an extremely dangerous form of dust after smoke clears. This can affect small kids and pets significantly. And this is relevant directly to vaping, as it is an aerosol and will stick to surfaces. And when pets and kids contact these surfaces, they ingest these chemicals. If you love your pet, put down the e-cigarette. Next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the side effects of vaping. Vaping has many side effects such as irritation, cough, and increased airway resistance in the mouth and airway. Also, chest pain, increased blood pressure, and increased heart rate can affect the heart and circulation. Nausea and vomiting can also occur. Stay away and you just won't have to pay. So now, next slide. So basically our whole campaign is don't juice, you'll fuse. And this is very true because it's not like you can go bind a new brain once it fuses. Nicotine is a substance that affects brain development in adolescence. The human brain is not fully developed until age 25, meaning that when teens vape, they're destroying the brain development and altering the process. This can cause severe long-term impacts and may be irreversible. The long-term side effects and how it has even hindered brain development is not seen until later on in life, as people will have problems with coordination and processing information. So don't juice or you'll fuse. Next slide. So now I'm going to be going over EVAL-I. EVAL-I is the term used to describe vaping and e-cigarette lung injuries and illnesses. There have been 1,300 cases and 26 deaths from EVAL-I as of last October. The common symptoms are shortness of breath, cough, chest pain, nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. The CDC recommends hospitalization of EVAL-I patients with decreased O2 saturation, respiratory distress, or those who have comorbidities. The CDC states that to combat EVAL-I, corticosteroids help, but antimicrobial treatment for community-acquired pneumonia is a stronger option. I know most of y'all probably like popcorn, but how many of y'all have heard of popcorn lungs? For those of you who want to know, popcorn lungs are basically a condition that damages your lungs' smallest airways and makes you cough and feel short of breath. So basically, the chemical that is the main cause of popcorn lungs is the chemical in the flavored vape product, which is diacetyl. It has a texture just like hardened butter and will actually end up just staying there in your lungs, that waxy like texture all in your lungs, and then you won't be able to clearly breathe at all. That's exactly what popcorn lungs is. All right, next slide. So now I'm going to talk about how vaping can actually decrease your chances at COVID and other respiratory illnesses, especially now that we're in the COVID-19 pandemic and the new, more dangerous Delta variant is only getting stronger, along with the new Lambda variant that is extremely dangerous. It is important to note that vaping can harm the lungs and weaken the immune system. Your chances with fighting COVID could go down significantly if you vape or smoke. On the other hand, those who don't vape or smoke will have healthier lungs and be able to ward off the disease when compared with those who vape. And this can be relevant to any illnesses such as the flu, sinus infections, and respiratory infections, as all those illnesses target the lungs, and you'd ideally want your lungs to be in the most healthy condition in order to fight these illnesses. Next slide. So now I'm just going to talk about the challenges to prevention. There are many challenges to prevention, such as access and availability of vaping products, marketing, regulatory environment, perceptions of vaping as low risk, cultural considerations, and the use of vaping products in public. All of these can lead to vaping being seen as okay, when in reality, it is detrimental. As you can see, 1 in 5 young adults vape. So that's basically the vaping prevalence in our youth and young adults. Okay, next slide. So you guys are probably very invested in anti-vaping. And if you're wondering what steps you could take, here they are. In order to promote healthy behaviors and take steps to prevent vaping in public places, one can follow these 7 steps to help themselves and others in their community. The first is to plan and advocate, which will help get the idea started. Next, go over the baseline data and facts about vaping. Then work on developing messages and coming up with a market plan. Then analyze the materials and the products that are entering the air and implement a campaign. After implementing the campaign, evaluate what went right and wrong, and then continue advocating. And you guys can easily go take the strategy home, even if it influences just 3 or 4 people at a time. If we all put the effort in, we can end up influencing a large group of people. Next slide. Now, if anyone knows somebody like who actually needs help, I'm just gonna go through like how they can actually find salvation and quit vaping. So how to quit vaping in 5 steps. If overcoming the nicotine addiction and quitting vaping is on your agenda, here are 5 strategies on how to stop. First, understand the reasons. Second, set a clear goal and quitting date. Third, prepare for the challenges. So once your body gets addicted to something as highly addictive as nicotine, there's going to be a lot of withdrawal symptoms when you try to take yourself off of it. So in order to avoid those, you need to do something productive and constantly keep yourself occupied in order to avoid these withdrawal effects and stay clear of the challenges. Also, steer clear of the triggers. So that means basically don't ever like be around those who do vape, because then you're going to also be tempted to also continue doing it. Until you find the self-control, you should probably stay away from those type of people. Then finally, find strength in the numbers. Like I just said before, I said 1 in 5 is pretty bad for vaping prevalence in young adults. But if you look at the flip side of that fact, that means 4 in 5 young adults are not vaping. So that means like 80% of the youth is still doing fine. And that means you need to be a part of that 80%, a part of the majority. So if you're thinking of picking up that Juul pod, think again about the risks and dangers involved. So basically, be tough like Woody and don't puff. Thank you for your time. And now we're open for any questions, if you had any questions.
Yes. We are open for questions. Does anybody want to ask any questions in the chat? Pranav and I will answer them. So please put it in the chat or put in the Q&A if you have any questions about vaping. Okay, so since there's no questions right now, and if you come up with any, please feel free to put them in the chat and we can answer them maybe after our next speaker asks some questions. Oh, I do see one question here. Do you find it more popular in college? Pranav, do you see it pretty prevalent among college students?
Oh yeah, UT is extremely prevalent. Like you can just be walking down any street and you're going to be seeing people constantly hit it. Like, and almost all like any like convenience store that's located on campus and off campus supplies them. So you have to be very careful in college and actually know not to stay clear of it, because you do not want to be controlled by any substance at any point of your life. You want to just be free to make your own decisions and not be bound by any addictions ever.
Absolutely, that's a good answer. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Sergeant Barton. And we will come back and answer any questions towards the end as well. Okay, Pranav? Mm-hmm. All right, so Sergeant Barton is a supervisor for the Community Service Division at the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, and he is a longtime coalition member and drug prevention advocate. Go ahead and take it away, Sergeant Barton.
All right, thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me good? Give me a thumbs up. All right, gotcha. Thank you, Pranav. That was a very informative presentation. Well done. My hat's off to you, and my hair's off to you. So keep it up, man. We need more young people like yourself making differences in the world.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As I was so eloquently introduced, I do work for the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Eric Fagan has allowed me to work in the community in our youth programs. I'm in community services, but we do youth programs. So we're in the schools trying to educate the youth throughout Fort Bend County on numerous topics, one including drugs. And one of our drugs that we talk about, of course, is tobacco. Well, nicotine that's in the tobacco product. And so we teach that program in 5th grade. As early as that seems, we know reality is these kids, whether they see it from their own families, parents, or friends, or TV, or ads, like Pranav was talking about. I mean, it's everywhere. You're inundated. So the earlier we can start educating about the harmful effects of tobacco products, including vapes, then the better off we'll be. So, from a police standpoint, why am I in this conversation? Well, because tobacco products, including vapes, are a regulated product. They are, you have to be a legal age to use these products. And it is against the law to use a tobacco product in any form, whether it's cigarettes, dip, which is snuff, chewing tobacco, hookah, and of course, all your vapes of any variety, your mod boxes, your vape pens, your anything like that. Man, if it's a tobacco product, you have to be the legal age of 21 in the state of Texas. 21? Man, I'll be like out of college by then, right? Yeah. Well, maybe by then you'll be able to think for yourself, do I really want to use this product? We just want, with age comes wisdom, right? So we're going to hold you back a little bit, and we're not going to allow you to use these tobacco products until you are 21 years old. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal, and you're going to have to wait. There's going to be a tremendous amount of peer pressure on you guys, especially probably starting in high school, if it hasn't already started in middle school, junior high, to use these products. So best answer you can say is, no, I don't want to. It's illegal. I don't want to get in trouble. I mean, always ask yourself what you're doing out there. If it's illegal, don't do it. That's your best excuse you could use. What happens if you get caught using a tobacco product? What happens if you get caught with a vape pen? Okay, well, we can give you a ticket, citation. It's called minor in possession of a tobacco product. If you do it at school, you can get into even more trouble because, of course, we all know probably if you go to any school event, any football stadium at a school, there's signs all over the stadium, no tobacco, stay out tobacco, you know what I mean? So because schools are drug-free zones and you can't be using any type of drugs, including nicotine, tobacco products, vapes at a school, and be real cautious. Somebody's, they're taking we call it a hit. They're taking a puff off of a vaping device and they say, hey man, you just want to try some of this? And you're like, nah, I don't think so. Come on. What are you, chicken? What are you, scared? What are you, baby? All that peer pressure stuff. And then you just take some. Well, do you really know what's in that vape device? Do you really trust somebody who's trying to get you to break the law in the first place by using this tobacco product? I don't trust them. What if there's something called THC? THC, it's the derivative from marijuana. What if it's in there? A real drug at school. Well, what we call that in the police world? Busted. That's what we call that. So you can get yourself just taking that one little puff or holding that device for somebody. Hey man, hold this for me. I got to go to the principal's office. Okay. Well, guess what? Now you're in possession of marijuana at a school. Man, you just got yourself in a whole lot of trouble. But let me ask you this. Did you know it was wrong to hold that device in the first place? I think you did. You knew it, but you didn't know what to do, right? So you freaked out and you just held it. And then the drug dog comes walking by. Police have drug dogs. We call them our four-legged partners, and they're sniffing, right? Well, don't forget, guys, the nose knows. You know what I'm saying? Now you done got yourself in a lot of trouble, but you knew it. So look, here's the deal. Don't tell me you don't know which one of your friends is using vapes. You probably know. So just don't hang out with those people. They're making bad choices, okay? Hang out with kids who are making good choices, and that's going to keep you out of trouble. So yes, it is against the law to use any type of tobacco products, including vapes, even though they look cool, even though they smell good. It's not air freshener. It's a chemical that's going into your body that's going to hurt you. Come on, don't use them. If for no other reason, because Sergeant Barton, this badge and all, a police officer is begging you, please wait. If you're going to start at the age of 21, after you do all of your research, ask all those questions. Ask your doctor when you go for your physical. Hey, doc, would it be a good idea if I start using tobacco products? I mean, my dad does, my grandpa does, so maybe I should. And if your doctor is really a doctor and really has the best interest, I got a feeling he's going to say, well, I strongly recommend you don't start, because that's the truth. All we want to bring to you guys tonight is the truth. Okay. The truth is tobacco is harmful. Read the label. Every tobacco product's got a label on there. Something like the Surgeon General says this is bad for you. Surgeon General? That sounds like a big deal, right? Yeah, we know it. Now look, I am living proof that just because your parents use tobacco products, you don't have to. Okay? You don't have to. It's your choice. You get to make that one for yourself. And I'm so happy about that, because I proved that just because your parents do it doesn't mean you'll have to do it. I made the decision I'm not going to use that stuff in any form. And hey, I'm still cool, right? I mean, check it out. I'm cool. You are too. You don't have to use that stuff. I'm telling you. But I do get it. There's a lot of kids who will tell you you're not cool unless you're doing this with us. And that's just a lie. Okay? That's a lie. And don't buy any of that stuff. For convenience stores, Pranav was talking about at college, there's a lot of convenience stores that sell these products. We actually send underage people into those stores. Not in Austin over here in Fort Bend County, but locally, we'll send them into the stores and we'll just see if they can buy a Juul device or a pack of cigarettes or cigars. And it's up to the clerk to make sure that they are not selling a regulated product, just like alcohol. It's their one job is to make sure the person they're selling this product to is legal age. So they need to be asking for identification. If they're not, and you know about it, there's a tobacco hotline. I'm sorry, I don't have the number with me, but you can Google that, look it up, and you can actually call and report stores who are selling tobacco products to minors. We'll get that tip. We'll go in there. We'll try to do a buy. If we get a buy, we can write the clerk a citation for selling tobacco to minors, which is a big deal. That ticket's a lot. They have to go to court and everything else, because we're not trying to trick them. We just want to make sure they're doing their job correctly. Okay, because it is important. If we can stop kids from using vapes at a younger age, then we can prevent the addiction that can happen really fast. I have a dear friend who started using a Juul when it first came out, the Juul, right? It looks like a flash drive. He started using it. And I tell you what, it seems like it was less than 10 days of use that he told me that he could not stop using it. He just had to have it. And that's scary. That's really scary. That's something you do so little bit of time can have such a addicting effect to you. It's just crazy. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, none of that stuff. I wish. But I can tell you this from experience. I've been around the world a while, okay? I'm an old guy, but I got experience. Here's the facts. It's real easy to quit if you never start. Think about that. And I tell you what, you're going to be in just fine shape. So, guys, let's work together on this. Kids, talk to your friends, hey, let's do this. No, let's don't, let's just stop the cycle. Parents, be open with your kids, talk to them about it. If you're using a product yourself, maybe tell them, you know what, I do this, but I don't want you to. I wish I was stronger like you, because it's really hard to stop. So it's just something to think about. So anyway, I don't know where I am on my time, but I'm probably up. So I just want to say thank you guys for attending this virtual town hall. And thank you. Oh, your name escapes me. It's such a pretty name. Pragathi, I can't say it, but I appreciate what you do as well. Keep it up. Make some changes. You got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Barton.
Sure.
And I do see we have a few questions in the chat, and maybe Sergeant Barton, you can stick around if you want to help answer some of these. And Pranav, if you're still there, you can turn on your camera and you can help us answer some of these. The first one is vaping safer than cigarettes?
Vaping is not safer than cigarettes because vaping actually has a higher nicotine concentration than cigarettes per hit. So you're actually gonna get addicted way quicker, and yeah, it's also like way worse for your lungs because it's a harsher hit.
Great answer. All right. And Stella Johnson has a question. How has your advocacy against vaping been perceived by your peers?
Is that for me or?
Yeah, I think it's for you.
Oh, okay. So, well, I mean, majority of them really just they either do their own thing or like so they won't like they won't necessarily interfere in like what I'm doing. But like some people do like also agree that vaping is very bad and that the use is very bad. But I can also say that there are other people who are in college that are over the age who I know, so they can make their own decisions. I'm not going to comment on that. But I mean, they don't interfere when I'm like trying to promote stuff as a public health student. They understand. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And does using e-cigarettes contribute to, does using e-cigarettes contribute in any way to using regular cigarettes in the future?
Yes, it does. Because when you actually start on e-cigarettes, I think I read a fact that you were like 4 times or 10 times more likely to actually transition into cigarettes into the future. So starting here could lead there, and starting there could also like revert back into this, just because it's like nicotine is like a cycle, and you're just going to be trying to use one like form of nicotine. You'll try, like, if you start out with one form of nicotine, you will explore other forms eventually, more likely than not. And that can even go into like dip and stuff too.
Awesome. And I see one more question. Can a vaping addiction lead to other possible addictions?
I mean, it can, because like when it comes to like you can start with something like as a gateway drug and then like move into more harder drugs. Also, like with nicotine being an extreme stimulant, it could like be linked with like also like you taking other stimulant drugs such as like cocaine, like potentially.
Interesting. Okay. And we have another one. Does vaping also cause secondhand smoke effect if someone is near me or in the same room?
Yes, it'll have the secondhand smoke, and also it will have the third-hand smoke effects, because like I said, it's an aerosol. So like if you think of any aerosol spray that you have and you just spray it on your keyboard, and let's just say you'd never wipe it off, like you just let it stay there, like after a few months, like, or like even after a month, like your keyboard quality itself will deteriorate. You will feel that it's like just becoming slimy and stuff. That's actually doing all that just because of the aerosol, and that's the same thing that you're inhaling with the vape. So when you exhale it, it's going to stick to the surfaces the same way. And also like it's also going to be in the air, so you can also inhale that like aerosol like after someone blows it out. So obviously the second hand portion is there and the third hand portion is there, even if you're like in the same, especially if you're in the same room as them, like it's gonna definitely happen.
Awesome. Okay, and we have another one. Are there facilities on college campuses to help students deal with vaping addiction?
I believe UT, they just have like a public health campaign going on where they are like said no vaping or smoking in areas, because before they used to have areas on campus where you were actually allowed to just, I think you were allowed to vape on campus itself, but then they changed that policy to like no smoking or vaping. You weren't allowed to smoke cigarettes, but you were just allowed to vape. But yeah, now you can't do either of those, especially since they raised the law from 1821 as well. So like that made them also like implement more campaigns on campus.
Okay, and what about vapes that say 0 nicotine? Are those okay?
Vapes that say 0 nicotine. I mean, well, at that point, it's just like I'm pretty sure like those are also like harmful for you, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get any effect because it's 0% nicotine, and you're just going to be breathing in all these flavorings and other stuff. Like that's actually the worst parts of it, like is actually like the flavoring, like the diacetyl and like all those other chemicals that are added in, because those are the parts that actually cause like cancer and other stuff. Because like there actually is no link of nicotine in cancer, but there's link of all the other stuff causing cancer, like the tar in cigarettes and stuff. Like, and then for vapes, it's like all the other chemicals.
Exactly. They're still doing research right now to understand the long-term effects of what all of these different ingredients in vaping can do to your body. And so the jury's still out, but just as a general rule, inhaling smoke into your lungs is probably a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we got another question. What advice would you have for someone who wants to convince a family or a friend or family member to stop vaping if they already heard all the facts and don't care?
Well, I mean, you can try your hardest, but I believe personally, after a certain point, people get addicted and hooked on the substance. And if they know all the facts, then I'm assuming that they're educated on the topic and like they know everything. Also depends on their age, but like but also like if they know everything and then they're choosing and they're of legal age and they're choosing to go ahead on that path, there isn't really much you can do to convince them. And you can try just like with an emotional appeal, like if they're a really close family member, tell them like, to think about the greater picture, and like you can try all those things. But at the end of the day, it's gonna have to come from them if they're internally, especially if they're that addicted.
I agree. At the end of the day, all you can do is tell them that you care about them and you care about their health and their safety. And as long as they have that information and they can make an educated decision for themselves, then you've done all you can, and you just kind of have to wait for them to change their mind or shift their perspective. And you'll let them know that you'll be there for them when they're ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a question for Sergeant Barton. I may have missed this, but at what age does your program start educating kids about the dangers of vaping?
The first time we seriously start talking about it is in 5th grade. So the average age is 11 or 12 years old with our programs. And then just to tack on to what y'all were just saying about the trying to get someone to stop, it's crazy because we just had a conversation with our neighbors who were both heavy smokers, and they said that they went on this, I guess they just went cold turkey. They just decided to do it, and they were just talking about how much money they're saving now by not buying all these products. And so that's also a goal. Everyone has a something, maybe they want to take a trip or something like that. And if you can kind of break it down from a financial standpoint as well, if you cut it back to only 1 pack a week as opposed to 1 a day, whatever, you can save this, and get all technical with them and stuff, and all math musician and all that. Next thing you know, they might say, wow, I never really thought of it like that. And plus, your overall goal is their health. But financially, you are saving a whole lot of money, especially with these vape devices. They're not cheap. And there's so many different kinds. You got the disposables, the throwaways, and you got the other ones. But I mean, maybe even that's a way to just do it. Just talk about money.
All right, this was a great Q&A, but just to respect everybody's time, I will go ahead and move on to the PSA that we created. Pragathi is, of course, the star of the PSA, and she created this a few days ago to kind of educate about anti-vaping, and it's called Be Tough, Don't Puff. And so I don't know if anybody has it queued up, but I might have to share my screen. Does anybody have it up for me to play?
Lauren, I don't have the most recent version, I don't think.
That's okay. I will do it. Oh. Hold on, I didn't share my sound. Give me another second.
beauty of the world. It's so beautiful and so brutal. It's a reminder that every second of life is precious. We all have one life to live, and yet so many choices to lead it. Here we see a beautiful, talented young lady with 2 paths ahead of her. Which path will she choose? Let's watch to see the consequences of each path. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a light. Look at her. See how happy she is? What if she takes the other path? Are you curious to know? Let's watch.
Hi, my name is Astrid and I'm an addict.
Hi, Astrid. This is a classic scenario of the saying, if you choose, you'll fuse. So make the right choice to go down the right path. A path that is free of experimenting with vapes, drugs, and alcohol. Remember, youth, the choice is ours to lead a happy, healthy, successful life. Our message to you is to be tough and don't puff.
All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to taking the pledge. Pragathi, you want to explain the pledge?
So now that we all know the dangers and risks of vaping and why it is so important to be tough and don't puff, are you ready to take the pledge? Type your name in the chat now, and we will send you a copy of your very own Be Tough, Don't Puff pledge. This pledge will also help you enter our social media contest. Now that you have taken the pledge, it's time to spread the word on social media. Let's see the next slide for all the details. All of you will receive a copy of the pledge in an email following this event. To be eligible to win one of the 3 $100 prizes, all you have to do is share. Share the pledge on your social media with the caption, I took the pledge, and add the hashtag #BeToughDon'tPuff. Sharing the hashtag is super important because this is how we will track, tally, and judge the social media campaign contest. If you do not use the hashtag, you may miss out on the opportunity to be one of the contestant winners. Then share the contest details with others so that they will be eligible to participate as well. We want this pledge and hashtag to go viral, and we need your help to make this happen. Okay. 3 based on the following: most participation engagement during today's event, sharing the pledge with captions and hashtag, name will go in the drawing. Most engagement, like Best of luck. Contestant winners will be announced on August 24th on Instagram. Next.
Be sure to follow on Instagram at SERC Squad.
As they say, no individual is island. In any given occasion, there will always be people who exerted so much effort for its success. An event cannot be successful without people who devote their time and resources just to make sure everything is perfect. In regards, I would like to take time to thank and express my gratitude to the pillars of this event. My project advisor, Ms. Lauren Ibeckway, and her team member, Ms. Christina Santabenes from Fort Bend Regional Council on Substance Abuse, for devoting their time, resources, and by overcoming challenges along the way to make this event possible. I have learned problem-solving skills, dedication, and hard work by working with them, and I'm very thankful for that. Also, I would like to thank my mentor, Ms. Corey Jenkins, for all her support and guidance. In addition, I would like to thank my troop leader, Miss Leah Cross, and my scout sister, Chloe Cross, in helping out with my project in spite of their hectic schedule. Ultimately, people who attend and gather for the event are still very much a big part of its success. Hence, I would like to thank one and all for attending this event. And in concluding this event, I kindly request everyone to propagate the message, be tough and don't puff. Please take the pledge. Thank you. This concludes our presentation. Please email any questions that you may have to the email address listed below. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye for now.
All right, everyone, have a great evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to put your name in the chat if you would like us to send you the pledge and instructions to the pledge, and follow us on social media, and please share it. You're getting a lot of praise in the chat, Pragathi. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm also adding the email address for you to email if you have any questions about the contest rules or instructions.
There we go. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Nice. And Pragathi, I'm going to keep the room open for a little bit more so I can shave the chat, but you can feel free to go ahead, and you have a good night, okay? And thank you, Pranav. You did a great job as well.
Oh, thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
And great job answering all those questions. I didn't even have to say anything.
Yeah, very
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
That was really, really good. I'm very happy. Thank you.